Okay, we'll call this meeting, the Planning, Zoning, and Agriculture Committee for July 18th to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Olthoff? Mr. Stauffenberg? Mr. Tripp? Mr. Washington? Mr. Tholen? Ms. Polk? Mr. Mulcahy? Mr. Hildebrand? Mr. Einfeld? Mr. Payton? Ms. Peters? Mr. Ritter? Mr. Kinzinger? Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Wheeler? Mr. Lear? We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have 3 public comments today, and we allow 15 minutes at the beginning of the meeting for public comment, so you each would have 5 minutes if you choose to use it. And the first one I have is Jay Kerouac.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Jay Kerouac. I live in Momence in the city. I haven't been to too many of these meetings about solar farms, but I've learned a lot in the few I've been in. And the one thing that I keep hearing is findings of fact, findings of fact. And I think I understand what you mean, but I'm confused. On March 12th, at the Kinky Soil, Water, and Conservation District Committee meeting, 5 LISA reports were given by Ms. Janes. 3 were moderate and 2 were low. On April 10th, at the county board meeting, 10 sites were voted on that day, including these 5. And let me read you the comment that was made, and it's on video if you want to verify it. Kinky County Soil and Water Conservation District developed LISA scores for every site. None of the scores indicated should be designated for agriculture preservation. It is poor farmland that they all are being built on. What's the definition of poor? I've heard the 3 levels were high, moderate, and low. Now they're being defined as poor. I just measured corn the other day out at this site. It's 10 feet high. I'd hate to see, what would we have if it was moderate? 20 feet high? So what my question is, whose facts do we go by?
Okay, thank you. Christine Dowd.
Good morning. I just wanted to say at the last, I'm requesting that the Vincennes Trail solar panel farm, I'm requesting that it goes back to the PZA board, because at the meeting that night, Patrick from Sunvest, it was approved, but he did not have a landscaping plan. Mr. Featherling asked him, do you have a landscaping plan? And he said no. And he said, will you agree to one? And he said yes. Well, the residents, this is at the end of our subdivision. Landscaping is very important. And we want to know more, are we getting 3 barberry bushes? Are we getting arborvitaes? Are we getting any conifers? What kind of soil erosion plants are they going to be using? And if plants die, are they going to be responsible for replacing them? Is there going to be a fine? These are some things that we would like put in place. So that's my request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Timothy Navratek. Did I pronounce that right? Probably not.
Tim Navratil from Momence. I'm the property owner that's immediately south of the property where the solar farm is wanting to be put in on my property. I got a question for, do you, or do the council, do they have a copy of the 2 letters? Are they going to be read from the mayor and from the township?
if they wrote
And
the
I
letters,
was
it should be in
told
the
that I
packet.
was able to make copies and give them to the board members.
They're in the packet.
They have the
Mhm.
letters in the packet, so. I'd like to reiterate with what Chris said, one of the things with the landscaping, that wasn't put in place, and all the other solar companies that came before the planning and zoning, or ZBA, I think it is, they came with a designed landscaping plan in place. We didn't get to see that. We have no idea what their intentions are. They say that it's going to be strategically placed plants or trees. We have no idea. There was nothing presented to the ZBA. I'm asking you guys to throw this back to the ZBA to have that put in place to where we can review it. Another thing that wasn't set right with me at the last meeting, and maybe I'm wrong, all the other meetings that I've watched on the YouTube channel and everything, when the solar companies presented their project, they went straight into their findings and facts. We weren't allowed to at the ZBA. The ZBA let them split their meeting up. They did their, basically, their presentation and held off their findings and facts until after the public comments. We had no chance to rebuttal any of their finding and facts. We weren't allowed. I think that by due process, we should have been able to rebuttal it. So I'm asking for that point to be set back to, the reason for it to be sent back to the ZBA, so we can have our time and to rebuttal the findings and facts. There was a lot of things that weren't addressed by the ZBA that we would like to rebuttal with the erosion factor with these things, but that's things that I don't want to bring up here and take you guys' time. What we're asking for is for you guys, please take and send this back to the ZBA so we have more time to basically state our case and rebuttal their facts and findings. Another question I have is the solar farm, which would be probably back to the ZBA. The solar farm is asking to use 15 acres of this parcel as for their solar farm, but yet the county is allowing that to be opened up for all 49.2. Why are they allowing 49.2 acres to be zoned special use if all they need is the 15 acres? They're opening it up basically a Pandora's box to me that shows that we're going to have another phase 2, phase 3 inside this thing, and it will not allow us to come back on their phase 2 to say anything because it's already been approved for 49.2 acres. I don't think that is basically right. I think it needs to be changed in the ZBA. Another question I have for the board is, maybe I'm wrong and I don't know how the board works, but I think it should be two different things here that are going on. The piece of property they're taking, they're asking to have it turned from residential into agricultural. That should be one process. After the fact that it's done in agricultural, they should come back and then turn it into the special use permit. All the other solar farms are already in agricultural. We're kind of unique because this is already residential. I think it should be two different ways that it's set up. Like I said, that's part of the county board's decision, but I think we're taking and putting everything into one box and letting it go through instead of following the right process. But like I said, as a resident of Momence, there's a lot of them who couldn't be here because of work obligations and all. We'd like you to throw it back to the ZBA so some of these issues can be basically asked and taken into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You received a copy of the June 20th, 2018 minutes. Any additions or corrections? Is that a addition or correction, Mr. Payton, or was that a motion to approve? Okay, motion to approve, Mr. Payton, Mr. Washington with a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Going on to zoning, ZBA case 18-22, request for a rezoning from R1 agriculture, R1 residential district to A1 agricultural district and a special use permit 121-99C34 solar farm in the agricultural district on a parcel generally situated in section 17 of Momence Township. The petitioners are the estate of Gary Thifault and care of Ray Simpson, independent executor and property owner, and SVCSG Moments 1 LLC applicant.
The applicant will be giving the same presentation they gave at the Zoning Board of Appeals. Gentlemen, Mr. Dulcet. Use that microphone right there. Yes, switch. Yeah, that's fine. Just stand right. We can just stand right there. Yeah.
Morning, thank you. My name is Jim Griffin. I'm the zoning attorney for the project. I'm with the law firm of Shane Banks. Here on behalf of SVCSG Moments 1 LLC. That's the project developer. With me is Patrick Dalseth. He's the project developer. We also have two other members of our team here, Levi Mitchell with Westwood Engineering, the civil engineer for the project, and we have Andrew Lyons with Cohen Resnick. He's our appraisal and valuation expert, and they'd be available if the committee has any questions for them, but we don't plan to ask them to present as part of the presentation. This is a rezoning from R1 to A1 and a special use for a solar farm, and we did receive unanimous recommendation for approval from the ZBA, and Patrick now is going to take you through the presentation we have to give you a little more background on the project.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Again, my name's Patrick Dalseth with Sunvest Solar. And so here's some of the project information. The owner is the estate of Gary Tyfault, Ray Simpson, the independent executor. He is here if you guys have questions for the owner of the property. The applicant is SVCSG Moments 1 LLC, and that LLC is owned by Sunvest New Energy LLC, and with our business address is in Geneva, Illinois, and Tim Poles, my boss, is the manager of Sunvest New Energy LLC, and that, if you can see here on the board, is comprised of 50% of Sunvest Solar Inc., which is the company I work for, and then 50% of the LLC is owned by New Energy Equity, which is Sunvest Energy's equity partner on a number of projects that we are developing in Illinois and in Minnesota. Generally, the project is going to be at the southeast corner of Vincennes Trail and 4000 North Road in Moments Township. The entire parcel is 49.28 acres, although when we get to the site plan, you'll see that we're only going to use maybe 15 acres of that overall site. Current zoning is R1 residential. The land use is agriculture, and there are two requests, the rezoning to A1 and special use permit for a 2 megawatt community solar garden. Here's an aerial map. The area in yellow is the 49 acre parcel at the southeast corner of Vincennes Trail. And then you can see a green line kind of coming down Vincennes, gets to the close to the river. That is an overhead transmission line that leads back to the substation, in which is associated with the distribution line that runs along the property. So here we have the site plan that was submitted, and these project details. It's going to be a 2 megawatt project. The array is situated in the northwest corner of the parcel, strategically to be as far away from any of the neighboring residents as possible. There's 12 acres, approximately 12 acres inside a chain link fence, but then we do have to lease the ground between Vincennes Road and the project, and between 4000 North Road, and then outside of the fence maybe 10 feet. So when you add that all in together, it's approximately 15 acres. The interconnect's going to be on site. You can see in the southwest corner of the project we have an access road off of Vincennes Trail, in which we will gain access inside the fence, and that's where our interconnect equipment will be at that location. This is going to be a fixed tilt solar facility, much like the all the other projects that you've seen come through the county. So they will be facing south the entire time. They do not move. There are no moving parts. There are no blinking lights. We don't have an all-night light at the interconnect equipment or the access. We will be using string inverters for the project, and those string inverters will be on the interior row of this array. So there should be no sound emitted from the project, as everything will be interior to the project. As Ed indicated, there's going to be a 7-foot chain link security fence. We do not propose any barbed wire. We have committed to planting ground cover, which is a pollinator native grass mix habitat. We've gone on record in stating that. The panel heights here are going to be approximately 9 feet 6 inches tall at a 30-degree tilt. The last thing I'd like to state here is that the LISA score for this project was 188 out of 300, which was a low rating for protection based on the Kankakee Soil and Water Conservation report that was a part of the project. And that's all the information I just went through. So I'm going to turn it back to Jim here and talk about kind of the rezoning aspect of this project.
Yeah, the rezoning is consistent with and really directed by the Kankakee County Comprehensive Plan. There is a directive in the plan to reduce the oversupply of unincorporated R1 residential zoned land. There's an acknowledgement in the plan that the county had zoned an excess of property in the R1 zoning district, and that's not necessary for the county's long-term future growth. And so one of the directives of the comprehensive plan is to reduce that oversupply by rezoning that property back to agricultural use, and that's been the use of this property through its entire history. So this rezoning from R1 to A1 is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Additionally, this is a map right from the comprehensive plan that shows areas which, according to the comprehensive plan, are unincorporated residential zoning concentrations that should be rezoned to the agricultural area. And you can see we're within the little bubble number 6 there is the subject property. Additionally, the property is located outside of the Moments future growth areas, which are set forth in the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan identifies areas for future municipal growth for the municipalities of the county. This project is located outside of that projected growth area. So in all respects, the rezoning of this property to the A1 zoning district is consistent with your comprehensive plan. Turn it over back to Pat.
So this has been a kind of condensed version of the presentation that we gave. We do have our property value expert here. I don't know if you would like us to go through a full-blown presentation from CohnReznick. We can do that. We do have the slides all queued up and ready to go, but Mr. Chairman, at your election.
What's the pleasure of the committee? You've heard this before. Mr. Kinzinger.
I would like a statement from CohnReznick that nothing changed from the previous presentations, that the conclusions will be the same.
All right. He wants the brief statement of what CohnReznick came up with on previous meetings rather than the whole presentation.
Hi, this is Andrew Lyons from CohnReznick. Our impact study and the presentation that we performed at the ZBA holds true the same today. I think many of you have seen the presentation a few times, including some of the people in the audience. So there aren't any changes, and we still believe that by new solar farms won't have any adverse impact to any adjacent residential or farm property.
Okay, Mr. Washington.
2 questions. One, many of the projects that we've had come before us are have the rotating tilt. Why is yours fixed?
Great question. So Sunvest, as a company, has determined that in these northern climates, it's better for us to have a fixed tilt system so we don't experience any mechanical failure throughout the year, specifically in the winter time. So those fixed or those rotating systems on the single axis, if you'll recall, they need less land because they are able to maximize the efficiencies by the tilting of the solar panels. So, right, so we have gone with the other philosophy of with a larger footprint, maybe some more solar panels, but they're going to be fixed tilt so we don't have any mechanical issues and long-term operation and maintenance problems that may arise.
Why 49 acres rather than the 15 acres that you're using?
Well, that's simply because the application put on their parcel size. So I in the application put 49.23 acres or whatever it was. But
I could address that. You can't rezone a part of a parcel. If the parcel's 49 acres, the rezoning must be the entire 49 acres. But the special use permit only applies to the 15 acres. And the project as described in the application. So 2 megawatts on 15 acres. It cannot be 4 megawatts. That would be another application altogether. If they wanted to expand it, they would have to start from ground zero again and start all the way back through the process.
All right.
Okay.
Any others, Mr. Kinzinger?
I noticed your supplier is China. How will the trade war affect and what happens with these panels?
yeah, it's another good question. So here in Illinois, all of the companies that have been before you are going to participate in the adjustable block program as put forth by the Illinois Commerce Commission and the Illinois Power Agency. And so on a high level, basically, there is a renewable energy credit price that we can sell back the power. And the state of Illinois actually was forward thinking, and in anticipation of some type of tariff coming from the presidential administration, they have incorporated the increase in because of the tariff into the renewable energy credit price. So unlike Illinois should be insulated, and because of this forward thinking and an increase in the REC price.
So offsets.
Kind of offsets. Some very good language in that, and if you wanted to read that, but there's that language in there.
Mr. Stauffenberg.
Thank you, Chairman. In your overview picture, I noticed that you positioned this 15 acres right along the road there, and across the street are the houses. Probably some of the people that are here.
No, those are not
questions.
houses.
No,
Those are
businesses.
those are businesses.
Okay.
I'll let you finish.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you go to the very back corner where there's nothing?
First off, those are not business. Those are not residences. There's the River Valley Animal Rescue, which is the building right at the corner, and then Van Drunen Farms has a operation and maintenance facility, which is that.
Correct.
So, but generally, the answer to the question is we need to have access to the distribution lines that run along the property. So, putting it right there allows us to have a very short access road instead of maybe a quarter mile of transmission line that we need to build into the back.
Okay. I have a question for Delbert. Delbert, the Lisa score, I know I've asked this question before, but for some members that might not know, isn't based off of just the farmland. There's several factors.
No, there's 2 pages of factors that are involved.
Yeah, so the
proximity
the
to sewer,
type of farmland
proximity
that
to
it's
water,
on, sandy, not sandy, whatever.
the soil types,
Yeah.
the environmental aspects of the property. Like I said, there's probably 30 different points that are considered before that score is calculated.
Because I think we're kind of thinking that that score is based strictly off of the productivity of the farmland, and I know it isn't.
There's actually 2 parts of the score.
Yeah.
One part is the land evaluation, which is the farmland side of it. And then there's the development side of it that talks about proximity to municipalities, sewer, water, utilities, and those two scores combine to make the LISA score. I can pull out the report and give you what those are if you'd like.
I've looked at them before. It's
It should be in your packet
pretty
too.
in-depth, yeah.
I've got a question. I believe ZBA put a condition on is for landscaping. Could you address that as to what the landscaping would be?
Sure. Yeah, they had asked if we would, prior to issuance of the building permit, provide a landscape plan to the zoning administrator for review and approval, and we agreed to that condition. They did ask, whether or not we would have to landscape or if we'd landscape around the entire site, and I said, respectfully, no, I don't believe it's required to be landscaped on, say, the west side or the north side. And I said, strategically, we would put together a landscape plan. So, we would, agree to that condition, and I can provide a landscape plan. And at this point, we would screen kind of the southwest corner of the project from the homes that are on the west side of Vincennes. We would screen along the entire southern boundary of the property, and then up in the northeast corner, because there is a farmhouse in the northeast corner. There was a question here about, what's that landscape plan going to entail, because we hadn't provided one, and it would be a combination of coniferous trees, evergreen, low growth trees. We can't have a 20-foot tall tree growing up and shading out. Arborvitae. We'd throw in some deciduous trees as well, for the color in the spring, summer, and fall months. But we would commit to a substantial landscape plan on the southwest corners.
Southwest and the northeast?
Southwest, and northeast.
Okay, and would it go the full length of the south?
Yeah, and we'd wrap it around to the southeast corner, wrap it going back north.
Okay, and how far? Approximately third, half?
We'll go 100 feet.
Okay. And the trees can't be taller to shade that's correct.
Right. Yeah, our
So
typical landscape plans, when they are required as part of a submittal, have evergreen, arborvitae,
right.
column type plantings that create a nice hedgerow.
Okay.
And
Approximately 6 feet tall.
well, they would grow actually. Yeah, at mature height, they'd be 10 to 12 feet tall, taller than the height of the panels, but not so tall that it would cast shadow
Right.
onto the panels in, say, year
Okay.
10.
I just feel we need to get that established, what that would be.
Sure.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I should note that a landscape plan is not a requirement unless put on as a condition by the board. In this case, they did put a condition on. There's actually 3 conditions on this special use permit. 1, the developer shall submit a landscape plan to the planning department for review and approval. 2, the ground cover shall be planted with native pollinator-friendly species. And 3, all required landscaping shall be subject to the maintenance requirements and penalties prescribed in the weed and grass control plan.
Okay. Mr. Kinzinger.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman, but in one of these applications, it mentions a different type of fence, a game fence as opposed. I apologize, Mr. Chairman, but in one of these applications, it mentions a different type of fence. I know the county requires a fence. I'm not certain which one it was. Which one's this?
This is the one with a chain link. The other one was a
game type fence or something.
Yes, that'll be the case coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was one of the things I was going to bring up, the landscape plan requirement, and also the enforcement side of it is that it's clearly spelled out that it's, if they, like say, something is not maintained or the grass isn't cut and things like that, there's a penalty and a substantial daily if it's not done. I was going to ask if this was actually put in as part of it. If the trees die, they have to replace them.
Well, that would be
kind of stuff.
condition number 3.
That's condition number 3. I just want to make that clear because
So any landscaping as required would be tied to that same penalties of the weed and grass control plan.
Correct, right.
Which is a $500 a week fine.
It's a week. Okay.
Yes.
now we talk about comprehensive plans. We have one for the county. We included Moments in ours. I would assume it had some connection to things that they want, or did we come up with that as an overall?
We included all municipalities in our comprehensive plan, but because they have their own authority on creating a comprehensive plan and planning, what we did, actually, if you could pull do you have that comprehensive plan map? You could pull up there. I can kind of show you that. Right there, that is our comprehensive plan map. Everywhere that is incorporated in a municipality is the dark gray. Everything that is the light gray is the community growth area, and we designated that as that's the area for the municipalities to do their planning in. So we didn't specify any specific land use in those areas and left that up to the municipalities if they have a comprehensive plan.
Well, I guess my question then would be, ours is in writing. Did it come out in any testimony in ZBA based on the letter the mayor and the council sent that there is
Closer.
we got the letter from the mayor and the council saying they wanted it to be residential and all that? Is there any written comprehensive plan for Moments regarding that?
Not that I'm aware of, and my phone calls to the mayor to obtain a comprehensive plan or ask questions about it have not been returned.
Not posted on the website, nothing that says.
I have not found one yet, so it's my understanding they do not have a comprehensive plan or any plans for any properties around the city of Moments.
So it's just verbal now saying it's in our plan. But
I don't know that it even said that in the letter.
Well, I mean, as in
the letter says they have a desire to keep the property as residential because of the possibility of future growth, but there's nothing to back up what that future growth might be, which direction it might go, which is what you'd have in a comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And I guess it should probably be noted that the in public comment at the zoning board hearing, a gentleman said that there's only been 2 houses built in the city of Moments in the last few years, and one of those still remains vacant. So we do have that to go with.
I'm trying to give every opportunity for the municipality to put their 2 cents in and discuss what their future plans are, but without having it written and something that we could rely on that says this is just not for this one particular situation.
Right.
That's my concern is that there's something that has been expressed that would just apply to this project and maybe not something else.
The municipality has the authority to plan within their 1.5 miles, but without a written plan and an official plan, to say that you want to save a piece of property for a specific use is fairly arbitrary. There's nothing to back it up with. There's no analysis of it. And as far as I know, there is no plan here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I can discuss the vote at zoning board?
Yes.
Okay. I already discussed the conditions. At zoning board of appeals, they heard this case and they voted 4-0 to recommend the approval with the 3 conditions as I stated earlier. Let's see from the beginning. Thank you. So, yeah, on both the they voted separately on the rezoning and the special use permit, but the vote was the same, 4-0 on both. There was public comment. We read the letter from Moments Township into the record and the letter from the city of Moments into the record, and a list of the folks that spoke at the hearing are there. There is a synopsis in your findings of fact report of what each person said and what their concerns were, as well as a response to the letters. If you'd like me to go over those, I can, but would you? Okay. Let's see. City of Moments letter. We'll start with that one. A letter of objection was received on June 14th, 2018. The objection is based on 2 factors. The many calls from citizens not in support of the rezoning, and 2, the city needs the property to remain residential for future growth predicated on current commercial and industrial expansions. Staff response: the city of Moments does not have a comprehensive plan, which makes it difficult for the zoning board to determine where future growth may occur. Further, the city has been steadily losing population since 2010 based on estimates from the U.S. Census Bureau. Also, please note that this letter was received prior to the hearing and before any testimony was heard that might have addressed these concerns. Township of Momence, a letter of objection was received June 22, 2018, stating that they feel there would be no guarantee their property would not decrease in value. Staff response, the letter was received prior to the hearing and before testimony was heard. At the hearing, Mr. Andrew Line from Cone Resnick, LLP, gave expert testimony and presented a property value impact study, which is Exhibit B, which concluded that there would be little or no change in property values as a result of the siting of a solar farm at this location. No evidence was offered to refute this study. Public comments, Christine Dowd, an area resident who lives over a quarter mile south of the subject site, told the story of her childhood and how she was finally able to purchase her childhood dream home, which is her current residence. She feels that the solar farm would destroy her dream. Jay Kerouac, a resident of the city of Momence, questioned the board about various content of the application and the zoning process. Jack Vickery, a resident of the city of Momence, thinks it is silly to think a shutdown of the Dresden nuclear plant would require a 2-megawatt solar farm. He further stated that the county should not spend money on solar farms with out-of-state and non-United States companies when the Kankakee Community College can build us anything we need. Ray Simpson, a representative of the trust which owns the site, stated that the city's letter was wrong and that only 2 new homes have been built in the city in the past 8 years, and one of them still sits vacant. He also feels that a property owner should have the right to develop their property as they wish. Wesley Sons, a township resident who lives 3 miles away, stated that once the property was zoned to agriculture, the owner could keep cows and pigs on the property, whose manure would run off onto other properties. He also stated that Kankakee County has no code enforcement. Connie Seawick, a township resident, stated that because of the chemicals used by farms over the years, the property would be unable to grow ground cover. Diane Thifault, an adjoining property owner, stated she did not believe the access road would hold up to truck traffic. Tim Nevertill, an area resident who lives about a quarter mile south of the subject site, stated that he felt the solar farm would affect property values. He qualified his statement by saying he talked to two area realtors who told him property values would decrease. He did not offer their names or contact information. He further stated that he believed the solar farm would diminish the comfort and enjoyment of his property and that the solar farm was inconsistent with properties in the area. He then proceeded to question the board on the zoning process and findings of fact. That was the synopsis of the public comment.
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to address the process question and the ability for the public to refute any testimony or to offer their side based on any testimony, and then vice versa. The company and the landowner have the opportunity to refute some things that may or may not be accurate about that. So that's my question is about the process, because I want that to be as clean and open as possible. And could you speak to that ability in ZBA for both sides to be able to comment on each other's statements? I feel if one side can, then the other side can as well.
That's absolutely true. We start out with the applicant giving their presentation of the project so that all the information is out there. The board generally questions the applicant for a period of time after that presentation. Then they open the hearing up to public comment so that the public can also question the applicant, present their information, and refute any of the evidence, provide their own evidence. That goes back and forth. Unlike the planning and zoning and county board, there is no time limit for the public at those hearings. If it takes 10 minutes, that's fine. If it takes 3 hours, that's fine too. So once everybody is satisfied and no one else comes up to the microphone to speak, the chairman closes the public hearing portion. And based on that, if the board has any more questions, they'll question the applicant again, or if there's any clarification from the applicant or the audience, that all gets rectified. Then the Zoning Board of Appeals goes into their finding of fact session where they discuss those, all of the information and determine what the findings of fact are.
Thank you.
Okay.
Last question I have, I think.
And those findings, then a vote is taken, and those findings and that vote is submitted to this committee.
Right. Now, the nature of this solar project, is this one of those that just feeds the grid, or do you look for nearby landowners that can reduce their power bill, and there are two different kinds, and I wanted to see which one this was.
Right, the one that feeds the grid, you're talking about a utility scale project. This is not that. This is a community solar project where we will be required to find subscribers or users of the project. So if this project is selected by the IPA when we make our submittal, then we will have to go and we are ramping up essentially a sales team to go out and find those subscribers for this project and all of SunVest projects.
So typically, is there a percentage you can estimate that they would save on their bill? I know it's not calculable.
Yeah. I can't. I'd be hesitant to throw out a number because I don't know what folks' utility bills are and what the rates that they pay. But it's not going to be 50%. It's maybe high single digits, maybe up to 10% or 11%, 12%. But the savings would be there.
One issue that we failed to address here is private property rights. And for example, if this trust would want to install arborvitae around the perimeter, there wouldn't be any objection. And being that that's being done to hide the project from view, and everything else fits into the requirements that are made for a project like this, a person has a private property right to do it. He has a private property right to build a home. He has within the regulations, and if regulations are met, I don't see where we can deny someone this opportunity unless it's really detrimental, and I don't see that happening here. I think it's doing as much as it can to be minimal in its effect on the community. Okay, any others? Mr. Stoffenberg?
Thank you, Chairman. Are the commercial properties that are adjoining this annexed into the village of Moments, and has Moments tried to annex this into the village?
Not that I'm aware of. The properties definitely are not annexed into Moments. There you go. In fact, Moments, if you look at that map, the purple is the city of Moments.
So they're quite a ways
in the
away.
southwest corner there.
I just wondered why,
And I am not aware of any attempts to annex any of these properties.
because then they would be in control rather
That's right.
than us.
That's right.
Yeah, we would not be sitting here discussing this if they had
Right.
annexed
Well,
it.
that's why I'm thinking.
Mr. Washington?
Dell, how many members are on the board of ZBA?
7.
This seems like a short vote, just the four votes.
Yes. We had 2 that did not show up that night, and 1 that could not sit on the board that night because he was a party to a case on the agenda. The minimum requirement is 4.
I hesitate to say it, but I think it might be better if it went back to the board when there were more members on the board that showed up. We could send this back for a better vote.
I mean, you have a vote, you have the findings from the board, they've met the requirements of,
I understand that.
I don't know what you might be opening up by doing that, if that's the only reason for sending it back.
Well, I would look for input from those members that were absent. And you can't get it if they're not there.
True, but the board did take action, and they had the required minimum members to take action.
Yeah, I understand all that.
So,
And there was a quorum.
and there was a quorum. So,
I still think it's shorting the objectives, the opportunity to have a full board vote on it. That's just my observation.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't allow it because the public comments in the beginning. Thank you. Mr. Stoffenberg?
Delbert, there's no stipulation, just a quorum, because I've heard that complaint before that, some board members not being there didn't get a fair representation, so I just wondered if all you gotta do is have a quorum and
We need a quorum to, actually, one member present is enough to have the hearing.
One member.
One member is
Have a
enough to
hearing.
have the hearing and create the record.
Hmm.
But in order to take action, they
Seven.
must have 4. And in order for a recommendation to move forward to this committee, it must be 4 positive votes. In this case, they met all of the requirements. If the vote would have been 3-1, there would not be a recommendation. The zoning board did follow the proper procedures.
2 were not there, 1 had or abstained.
Yeah, the one would not be able to vote on this. He actually farms this property. He would not be able to sit at the hearing even if you sent it back. So you're still only going to get 6.
Do we have a motion? No.
And the hearing is closed at this point, so
Is there a motion by Mr. Kinzinger to approve? Second, with the conditions,
Conditions.
the conditions of the landscaping, and et cetera. Mr. Fairfield with a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carried. Okay, going on to ZBA case 1825, request for a special use permit number 34, solar farm known as Spring Creek Solar Farm in the A1 Agricultural District on a parcel generally situated in section 4 of Aroma Township. Petitioners are David A. DeYoung, property owner, and Community Power Group LLC applicant.
just a second here. As the chairman stated, this is another 2 megawatt community solar garden being proposed by, this time it's Community Power Group. It's located in Aroma Township. If you look at the map on the board, the property is 76.11 acres in size, currently zoned A1 agriculture. The solar farm would sit in the south end of the property, which would be the blue squares that you can see on the map there. It's pushed back a little ways away from Route 1. This is on Route 1, just a little less than a mile south of Route 17. That blue square represents 13 acres, which would be the solar farm. It would interconnect at the power lines on Route 1. Public hearing was held. There was only one public comment. I've got Wayne, but I've learned his name is actually Dwayne Osterhoff. He was an adjoining property owner. I believe he owns the property to the south. And he stated that he fully supported the project and questioned why we wouldn't want to do this. There were no other public comment or and no objectors in the room. The zoning board voted 4-0 to recommend the approval of the special use permit, and they placed 3 conditions on this property, or on this project. 1, that a game style fence be permitted around the site in lieu of the required chain link fence. And a game fence it's still going to be the 8-foot tall, but it's more of an agricultural fence, the wire squared fence. Some people find that a little more pleasing than chain link. 2, the ground cover be planted with native pollinator friendly species. And 3, all required landscaping shall be subject to the maintenance requirements and penalties prescribed in the weed and grass control plan. So this comes before you with a 4-0 recommendation from the Zoning Board of Appeals as well.
Is there a motion? By Mr. Tripp to approve, second. Mr. Mulcahy, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Going on to ex parte communication to the committee.
Okay. I'm going to be keeping this on here as a standard agenda item, and it's just to allow the committee to discuss any communications that they've had on any zoning cases outside of the public meeting. So if anyone has anything and you'd like to disclose anything, now would be the time to do so. That would include any written or emails or phone calls as well.
Okay, seeing none, going on to the building report for May 2018.
Okay. All right, in your packet, you have the building report from May of 2018. We had 5 new homes, which is pretty much unprecedented for us in recent history. And we've had a total of 85 residential permits. Commercial, we've had 3 commercial permits. One is a vestibule for CSL Bearing. One is a hoop building for Soil Biotics out in Limestone. And the other is a grain bin for Eastern Grain in Limestone. Those had a total valuation of $2.4 million, and we brought in $12,595 in permit fees. If you look at our totals, we had 108 total permits. 93 total permits, and collected with a value of $5.5 million and collected $44,858 in total fees for the month, which was, we haven't seen those numbers in quite a while as well. In comparison, in May of 2017, we had only collected $28,952 for the same month. So it does look like things are picking up in the building arena in Kankakee County.
Any questions? Okay, going on to stormwater MS. Oh, we need a motion to approve building report. Mr. Stauffenberg, Mr. Washington, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Stormwater MS4 program discussion.
Every month I am required by our MS4 program to ask if anybody on the committee or has any stormwater issues they would like to discuss.
Mr. Stauffenberg.
I just have a question. Would this include any of the issues we're dealing with our farm property? Stormwater?
Depends
Our
on what
farm
the
property.
Well, the farm property you farm, and
Yes.
we can certainly discuss it.
I just
Whether it
wonder
fits,
if
I
this
don't
is-
know.
I don't know who determines.
Yeah.
We have a creek that turns in from a straight creek to a snake, and it floods what he farms and what we farm.
Okay.
And I just didn't know if
They put in a new ditch. And
it keeps washing the road out, and
Right.
we got 15 tons of gravel in our field.
Who put in the new ditch?
the township road commissioner.
Township, and the county had something to do with it. They looked at it.
Okay, that would certainly be something to discuss, yes.
Yeah,
That's-
I just was curious, you know, we both have been dealing with it every year, and
A culvert is needed, which I'm going to make a call on.
yeah.
All right,
So I don't know, you know, I've been told that straightening a ditch was impossible anymore, but everybody's straightened theirs except this one landowner, and when it hits it just spills out everywhere because it's
it's
crooked and
not
full of trees and.
not impossible to straighten a ditch or alter a ditch or a creek, but there is a lot of permitting involved.
Yeah,
Who would,
We
who,
can certainly look into that.
who
I-
would,
I
who
just-
would require that?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything. That's why I'm asking if this is a proper place or time or,
It is, so.
I mean, it gets so bad that it closes Route 45
Yeah,
on occasion, so.
Okay. All right,
It looks like somebody ought to be thinking about trying to fix it.
okay. Well, the best I can do at this point would be to say, come to the office and we can discuss how to fix it, or
is there a
how to
drainage
work on
district?
it. Is there a
I think
drainage
there
district?
is, yeah. I don't know if it's one of them that's looking for new members or what. The last I heard, Don Ship was maybe in charge of that drainage district. I don't know. I don't even know what district it is. Do you?
No.
Now, if you can provide me with
What's the name of that creek? Does it have a name?
Yeah, it does.
North Branch of Rock Creek, maybe?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Or Walnut Creek? Okay. Yeah, if you can give me the information of the location and all of
Just
that,
curious,
we
you know,
can look
we
into it.
straightened ours and everybody, it ought to be all straight to the Kankakee River. Or to the big Rock Creek and then the Kankakee River, but.
All right, yeah. Yeah, so
I've
supply
been
us with,
told that soil and
information.
water could stop you in a heartbeat because of a silver shiner fish that's in.
Yes, right.
well, that's part of the permitting is looking at endangered species. So, yeah, you have to actually, it also depends on if it's a waterway under the Army Corps of Engineers jurisdiction, then you have
It's
to
got
get
a new landowner and he's inquired about straightening it.
Oh,
but he's said that he's been told it'd be impossible.
No, it's not impossible.
Maybe I'll put him in touch with you.
That would be excellent, yes.
okay, thank you. Any
That's what that's for.
others on stormwater? Okay, going to flood damage property buyout.
Yes. We have an opportunity. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources has a flood hazard mitigation program that provides money at 100%. It's not a grant program, but it pays for 100% to remove structures that are deemed to be a flooding hazard. And they approached us. Ron Davis, their representative, told me that the state currently has $12 million for this program, and it focuses on the acquisition of real property. You can they will buy the property, tear the home down, remove all the structures, return it to a vacant property, and the county will end up owning that property when it's done. I presented this to Andy because we do have a few properties that this program would actually work for. The problem we have here, and so he told me to bring it to the committee and see your thoughts on it. Even though it's 100% reimbursable, it is reimbursable. The county must front the money first. Switch that over, would you? Currently, we have 4 properties that we are interested in. They're in the little red area down there at the lower corner. They're in Aroma Township on Laurel Lane. They have had extensive flood damage in the last 3 floods. The addresses are listed there. I do have a blow-up view here of them. The top property is, well, the first 3 are no longer inhabitable. The one has not been lived in since February. It cannot be occupied. The next 2 have not been lived in since 2015 flood. They are in poor shape and need to be removed. With this program, I've calculated it there. The fair market value of the properties, if we bought all 4 of them, would be $267,000. Estimated closing costs and estimated demolition costs. The total cost of the project would be $399,000, just under $400,000 that the county would have to front. The state has told me that the average turnaround time from the time we submit the bill to the time we get the check is about a month. So we would have to front the money for about a month. And that's where Andy's, that's why we're bringing it to committee. So we are looking for whether the committee would be open to this concept or not. One thing that's attractive to these properties, there is a neighborhood park there in the green, so this would be an extension of that neighborhood park. It would forever be open land owned by the county.
Mr. Tripp.
First question I'd have, it's ours, we have to take care of it.
That is correct.
And that's cost us money.
Well, I am currently talking with the township to see if they would maintain it.
Well, if that would happen, that'd be fine, where we would be free of the maintenance of it. But I think it'd be a good idea to tie it to a park.
Yeah, there's already a neighborhood park there. Another option would be to see if the neighborhood would maintain it themselves.
That's kind of iffy, but
it could be.
Yeah, but
there's other options.
I think it'd be worth looking into anyway.
We could get a guarantee on that month turnaround.
Yeah.
They assure me that that is the case. In fact, they said in many instances right now, the checks are going out in about 3 weeks. But
Mr. Fairfield?
Would the county ever be able to sell that property once it's finished? No.
We can transfer it to another government agency or a conservancy-oriented group. So like the Nature Conservancy or somebody like that that would maintain it in a natural state. There's very little that could be built on it once it's bought out by this program. You could have a boat dock. You could make a gravel parking area. I think you could have an open wall pavilion and playground equipment.
You could have a boat access?
You could have a boat access, yes.
Mr. Kinzinger, do you have a question?
Yeah, it always takes money to make money. Sometimes you have to wait. It takes money to make money, and sometimes you have to wait to get it, but this sounds like something ought to be pursued.
Sounds like a developer, doesn't it? Okay, Mr. Tripp.
One more question. Just wondered if you couldn't get it and put enough fill in there to take care of the.
No, you could not.
You
fill.
cannot do that.
No.
Okay.
You'd be.
It must be
flooding other
taken
people.
back to a natural state.
You could be flooding others.
Yes.
Mr. Kinzinger.
This sounds like the kind of deal that we could work with local banks in case there's a cash flow situation.
Okay. It's an option. Mr. Stauffenberg.
Question, in the green, Delbert, is that a park district or just a
No.
park?
It is just a platted neighborhood park for the residents of that subdivision.
Nothing to do with the
It
Roma
is
Park itself?
currently really not even used. It's mostly trees. I don't know that anybody even uses it. I'm not sure the residents out there even knows it's a park. And actually, there's, if you look at that map, the next subdivision over also has a park down at the end that.
So our reason to want to do this is just to help beautify.
The reason we want to do this is to remove problem properties out of the floodplain.
Right.
The other option would be for, most likely the owners are going to walk away from them. And they're going to be an enforcement issue for us.
Is there a tax bill due on them?
What's that?
Is there a tax bill due on those properties that they haven't been paying because it's uninhabitable?
Not that I am aware of, no. But that could certainly become a problem. A new owner could buy it. The top one is for sale right now. And we have had inquiries, somebody could buy it, restore it back to a livable condition, and then we still have a problem property in the floodplain that is likely going to get flooded in the next flood again. And just perpetuate the situation.
What's our procedure? Recommend it to the county board?
Andy just told me to take it to committee, and if the committee felt that we could move forward with it, that was all we needed to do, but
It'll end up going to.
I would think
it probably
this next
needs to
step-
go to county board,
Right.
yes.
Mr. Tripp? Mr. Tripp with a motion, seconded by Mr. Washington.
Is that a roll call since this
Roll
is
call, yes.
spending money, even if it's short term?
Mr. Olthoff?
Aye.
Mr. Stauffenberg? Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Washington? Ms. Polk? Mr. Mulcahy? Mr. Hildebrand?
Aye.
Mr. Payton? Mr. Kinzinger? Mr. Fairfield? Motion carried.
Okay, transportation grant agreement for fiscal year 2019.
That'll be Jeffrey.
That'd be Jeffrey with the brief.
Morning.
Morning.
About a week or two ago, we received our agreement from IDOT for our transportation planning that we do. The total grant amount this year is $314,527, and that is split 80% federal and 20% local. The federal portion is from the FHWA for planning is $209,598. And then FTA pays the other portion of that 80%, and that amount is up to $42,023. The local amount, that 20%, is $62,905, and typically in the past that's always been shared by the county. We were notified this year that IDOT has what they call state metro planning funds, and they've made that available to MPOs, and that would actually cover the 20% match for us. So essentially, the grant itself is going to be 100% paid by federal and state funds.
Good job.
At the last MPO meeting on June 27th, we included an amendment to our Unified Work Program. That's one of our documents that we have to do every year. That outlines the planning work that we'll be doing. That was amended to include that coordinator position that was approved by county board earlier this month.
That's it.
I believe everyone should have received a copy of the agreement with the materials. It's currently under review with the state's attorney's office.
Okay. Any questions? We don't have to approve anything. It's not, I mean,
Yes.
we do?
Yep.
Motion to approve. Mr. Washington, second by Ms. Polk. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Good news. New business, or old business. Any old business first? Under new business, the Kankakee River discussion.
Anita?
Mr. Wheeler asked me to just speak briefly to the committee and let you guys be aware of what he's had several conversations with multi-jurisdictional groups that are working on the flood issues in Indiana and some in Iroquois County as well on the Iroquois River. And he's had some conversations with the group in Indiana that have done some work there to prevent flooding, and he would like to bring a member of that engineering firm. Will be at the Finance Committee next Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. This firm in Indiana, it's from out of Indianapolis, had done some work that they're seeing success in Indiana, and he wants that firm to present to the Finance Committee and talk about moving forward and possibly explore something similar in our area. So he wanted to encourage everybody on this committee to be there. He thinks it kind of belongs in both, and unfortunately couldn't get the representative here for both meetings, so he went with the Finance Committee. So
Okay.
if you want some other conversations with him offline between now and then about what those conversations and meetings have been, you're more than welcome to do that. But he just wanted to make this group aware that he'd like everybody, if possible, to be at Finance next Wednesday.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other new business? Motion to adjourn and be in order. Mr. Stauffenberg, Mr. Mulcahy, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Thank you all.